Go live. Yes. Prabhu, we are live. So now let's start recording. Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Kishore Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much for taking your valuable time for Naperville devotees. Today's Sunday feast is given by His Grace Chaitanya Kishore Prabhu. Chaitanya Kishore Prabhu is practicing Bhakti Yoga since 2007. He came in contact with Krishna consciousness by reading Srila Prabhupada Bhagavad Gita as it is. He later came in contact with the devotees at Iskcon Chicago in 2008, and since then he's serving Sri Kishore Kishori temple and deities and devotees with his family as a Bhakti Vriksha facilitator, along with other services at the temple. He lives in Shamburg area with his wife and two kids. So Prabhu, today's topic is trust is must. That's what Prabhu was going to give us some insights. What is the trust and what is that must? So let's tune to Prabhu's lecture. Prabhu, thank you. Go ahead, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Pandurang Gopal Prabhu. I'm grateful to you and for giving me this opportunity. So I have a slide. I'm going to share it.
Go ahead, Prabhu.
Let me know if you see it. Yeah. Are you able to see the slide?
Yep. You want to put it in a screen mode so we can. We see two screens.
Okay, so maybe let me. One second, I'm just going to put it here. Click on screen mode. Is it good now?
Yep, this is perfect.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So I'll start with Mangalacharan and then we'll go on to the topic. We start. Om Ajnanatimiraandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saganalita Shri Vishakham Vitamsha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. Thank you so much for joining today for the Sunday Feast class. This was I have not prepared much. This was an impromptu kind of a call, a request from Pandurang Gopal Prabhu. So I had presented this topic by Sri Kishore Kishori Temple. So I'm going to just repeat the same topic here. And we'll see, we'll discuss more on how trust is such an important element in respect to Krishna consciousness, right? So trust is must. That's the topic that I'm going to speak on today, right? So what is trust? First thing is we need to understand exactly what trust means. From the textbook definition of trust is defined as something that has, trust is something to have confidence, faith, or hope in someone or something. So it is it is kind of interchangeable, right? The faith, hope, or trust, these are different terms that we use interchangeably to define some confidence in something sublime, something or someone. You know, without trust, one actually cannot survive. If you say that I don't have any faith, or you know, just live by scientific facts in my life, that is not true. Everybody has certain amount of faith. Everybody has certain amount of trust in something that they believe, or someone in their lives. And without that, it is very impossible to survive. Even boarding a plane is impossible if you don't have faith that the pilot is going to be. I mean, the pilot is qualified, and they are going to take me to the destination where I want to go. So the trust is very, very essential. We may not know it, but it is an integral part of our life. Without trust, it is even difficult to step out of our house. Right? That's the idea. And everyone today is looking for a relationship, because relationships are something which every living entity is hankering for, and that too for a loving relationship. Without love in one's life, there is no question of happiness. Everyone is, you may have a lot of wealth, you may have a lot of fame, everything, but if you don't have love in the heart, or if you don't have anybody who loves you, then your life is not really successful, because it, your heart is not satisfied. Without a loving relationship in the life, your heart is not very, very satisfied. That is just nature. It's the nature of a soul. And this trust is a very, very foundational element, along with love, to develop successful relationships in life. Right? So we will look into these two aspects. In fact, these three aspects. How love, what is love actually is our goal, and the trust, how trust is foundational to attainment of this love, and how they kind of strengthen the relationship. What are these relationships, and how important are these relationships? All in context to our eternal relationship with respect to the Supreme Lord, or Krishna. Right? So we'll be discussing this in context with our relationship with Krishna. That is the topic. So first thing, what is the supreme relationship? Now, relationships in this world, we have so many relationships in our life, but not all of them are very satisfying to us. Right? Now, as per the scriptures, Bhagavatam says that root of everything is the Supreme Lord, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. So every root of love is Krishna. Like we water, when we water the plants, we don't water on the leaves or the branches. We water the root, because if we water the root, the branches and leaves and fruits automatically get the nourishment. Similarly, when we water, when we direct our loving relationship towards the Lord, Supreme Lord, Krishna, then every other relationship also gets fulfilled, and it also satisfies us. That is what the scriptures are telling us, right? That is what our eternal relationship actually is with the Supreme Lord. We as living entities, we are hankering for a relationship which is eternal and which is blissful. So only relationship that can give actual bliss and satisfaction is with the Supreme Lord. Now, what kind of relationship are we talking about? Right now, in general, people today, major religious faiths across the entire world, have this idea that with God the relationship is of a master and servant, and that is true. The relationship of a living entity with the Supreme Lord is that of master and servant, right? But the general conception, a general idea, is that I am the servant and my master is going to provide for me, or I am the son and my father is going to provide for me. That is one kind of relationship, where God acts as a supplier. He gives everything to us, as a loving father does, and the child is dependent on the Lord. Very nice relationship. But in the process of Krishna consciousness, the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness is, and this is what Prabhupada has introduced to us, and this is what our 500 years ago Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has introduced to us, is that we as living entities can have multiple relationships with God, depending upon our mood, our inclinations. It's not just that we go and we are sons and we're asking from the Father, but sometimes um, God is open. God, He wants to have, Krishna wants to have different relationships with His devotees. And primarily, the scriptures talk about there are 5 primary rasas or relationships that Supreme Lord Sri Krishna wants to have with his devotees. They are Shanta Rasa, which I said, which is like a neutral relationship where one living entity thinks himself to be dependent on God, and he is worshipping the Lord in awe and reverence. Yeah. He is worshipping the God in awe and reverence. The second relationship, higher than that, a little higher than that, is called Dasya or servant relationship, where a living entity thinks himself as a servant of the Lord and wants to serve the Lord, not get anything from him, but serve him, like Hanumanji did to Sri Ram. So that's the epitome of a Dasya relationship with the Lord. So Hanumanji selflessly served Sri Ram in every aspect. He was always in the mood of a servant to Sri Ram without expecting anything from him. Right? The future, further relationship that one can establish with the Supreme Lord is that of friendship, Sakhya. So Krishna is, you can consider Krishna to be his friends, like his friends from Vrindavan, Gopa friends. They never considered him to be God, even though Krishna performed so many wonderful deeds in his childhood pastimes, which only the Supreme Lord can perform. Yet, at the end of everything, they understood. They understood Krishna to be a sweet friend, not some very big god or anything. Because that was, again, it is a pastime of the Lord. He never let them think himself as God to his friends, because that sweetness then just goes away. And also, the relationship of Arjun with Krishna is also that of friendship, Sakhya relationship. So that relationship can be established. And then there is another higher stage of relationship, which is the parental relationship. So in the initial stage, a living entity thinks, God is my father, I am the child, and God supplies to me. But when one develops a loving relationship with the Lord, now the living entity wants to become a parent of God. He wants to supply everything to Krishna, because kids are usually dependent on their parents. So, and parents take loving care of the kids. So that is the reason why a devotee wants to serve the Lord with such intimacy that he wants to provide everything to Supreme Lord, take care of him, and think like Mother Yashoda, Anand Maharaj. They always were in anxiety. Is Krishna all right? Is Krishna good? Is fed properly? That is a relationship that they develop with the Supreme Lord. Total anxiety for the well-being of the Supreme Lord. And then the final relationship, or the topmost relationship, which actually which is a gift to us by the Gaudiya Sampradaya, by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is the Madhurya, or conjugal love, like the queens of Dwarka or gopis of Vrindavan. They had this loving relationship as a lover, Krishna as a lover. This is the topmost relationship with the Supreme Lord. So these are 5 primary rasas, but there are also 7 secondary rasas, which are also mentioned in the scriptures, in Nectar of Devotion specifically, of how we can develop this relationship with Krishna, with God, the Supreme Lord. So this is what our goal is, to develop this love, eternal love for the Lord, our original love for Krishna, which is our original relationship, which will give us the supreme satisfaction. As I said, watering the root will provide satisfaction to the trees, the leaves, everything. Right? So we want to water the root. And the root of all love, all relationship is Krishna. We want to direct our relationship with him. Yeah. So how do we do that? Okay, and let's try to analyze what happens. Yes, relationships, we know that the true love, true relationship is with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And what happens in this world is we are finding for that relationship in our immediate relationships of the world, basically the friends, the society, with our spouses, with our children, like that. But what is the problem? What happens, and why are we not satisfied with that kind of relationship, right? The relationship in this world, the first problem is the entire world itself is temporary. So are the relationships. Right? Now, why is it a problem? Because a temporary thing, we as spirit souls being eternal, anything that is temporary does not satisfy us, does not touch our hearts. So we are looking for eternal relationships, but relationships in this world are temporary. How are they temporary? Because one point of time they are going to be broken off, right? Either by mistrust, either by misunderstanding, either by, um, or even if everything is okay, death is the ultimate thing that will kind of break us apart. Any relationship you take, it's all temporary, right? So because it is temporary, it also causes pain. The first thing that a living entity is wanting in this world is a lasting relationship which will give it him satisfaction, because that is the nature of the spirit soul, to have a relationship. As a classic example is in this current crisis of COVID, everybody is forced to stay in their own homes without any meeting, without any social meetings, no relationships happening, no meetings happening, nobody's talking to each other. It's becoming, we see a lot of cases of depression rather than COVID-19 happening around, because people are not able to develop, not able to talk to each other, socialize with each other because of the distancing that they have to maintain. It's painful. So any relationship, though we have a very good relationship for some time, it causes pain because it is broken ultimately because of its temporary nature. So, as per the scriptures, our eternal relationship with Supreme Lord, relationship in this world is temporary and causes pain. So, what is the solution? Right? So, as per Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, first verse, it says, Urva Moolam Mata Shakam Ashwastam Prahuravyayam Kandam Siyasya Parnani Chestam Veda Veda Savit. Which means, he says that, yes, the relationship in this world are temporary and causes pain. But as per this, if you see this picture here, there is a banyan tree, he says, which is upside down. Roots are upwards, the branches are down. You see that kind of a banyan tree as a reflection or banks of a river, right? It's a reflection. So, so Krishna quotes this verse to Arjun on the 15th chapter, first verse of Bhagavad Gita, to emphasize that the world that we are living in today is temporary. It's a reflection of the real world. So relationships in this world are temporary and they cause pain. So there has to be, so the real relationship or the real world is, the relationship will be the spiritual world, which is eternal and is blissful. That is what we are talking about, the eternal relationship with God. So the reflection is not real, but the real thing exists in the spiritual world, and this world causes us pain. But the blissful nature of the spiritual world gives us bliss and eternality. So what is the reason? The reference is difference. Yeah. So the self that we identify with in this body is the body. Yeah. So what we think is we are the bodies in this world, and our reference plane is a body which is temporary, and that is why when we make our relationships based on bodies, they are broken. But when we make our relationship based on thinking of or understanding that we are the soul, yeah, that is the primary reference point of our lives, then our relationships are eternal and they are blissful because they are situated in the right plane, right? They're firmly fixed in the right understanding of ourselves. So that is the first lesson that even Bhagavad Gita gives, right? And in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, when Arjuna is lamenting, if you understand the context in which Arjuna was, he was supposed to be fighting a battle with his own relatives, his own grandfather, his own teacher, whom he loved so much. He was very much attached to, and they were their elders. The respect was very high. And when he actually came in front of them, he was not able to execute his duty. He was not able to fight. He was crying. He was lamenting, how should I do this? Because his reference was that of the body. And that is why Krishna kind of teaches or talks the entire, or says all the Bhagavad Gita verses in order for him to understand that you are not the body. The second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is utmost important, especially the 11th to 30th verses, which kind of gives a very real understanding of what a soul is, right? And how to identify, how to differentiate between the soul and the body. Yeah. So once we understand that, then there is a question of having a eternal relationship with Krishna. Then it is possible. Then it is possible to execute that, right? So that is the first thing. So eternal love, which is in the spiritual world with God, turns into what is called lust in this material world. Now, lust is not something which is just connected to some lusty desires in your heart. It is more of any desire which is not in our true relationship with Krishna is called lust, and that is what we'll see. What is lust? Yeah. So how do we go from lust to love? So Chaitanya Charitamrita defines these two concepts of love and lust. It says, Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tare Balikam, Krishnendriya Priti Icha Dhare Premanam. What it means, Atmendriya Priti Vancha, means the desire to gratify one's own senses is kama. When we do anything or anything in our lives to satisfy ourselves, to satisfy our own desires only, that is called lust. But when the same things are done to please the senses of the Lord, that is called prem or love. For example, if you cooking something very nice, if you're cooking nice food, you're cooking some nice puris and gulab jamuns and everything. But if you're cooking with a mindset of only that, okay, I'll enjoy this food, and my family, extended family will enjoy this food, that is called lust, because you're doing it for your own sense gratification. But when the same food is cooked with the mood of offering it to Krishna for his pleasure, and then after we offer it to Krishna, then we eat that becomes love. Yeah, that is love. This is a simple example, very crude example. So anything that you do, if it is directed towards Krishna's pleasure, that becomes love, right? And lust is anything that we do to satisfy our own senses. So Krishna consciousness, as the process goes, as the name goes, Krishna consciousness, becoming conscious of Krishna in every action that we perform. And that is a process of converting lust to love. Right? All the steps that we do in a Krishna conscious environment, that is all directed towards converting our lust to love. Because every person today is working hard to satisfy his own desires without this knowledge about where to find real happiness. And why we do this? To do this, to get a stable, eternal relationship with the Lord and to attain the happiness that we are all looking for. So now we come to our topic, which is called trust. Right? Now, why trust? Why do we go through all of this? Yes, we understood, at least theoretically, what the scriptures are saying. Okay, root of love is Krishna. Our eternal relationship is with Krishna. And Krishna, if we establish that relationship, we'll definitely have a blissful life of eternality, of having happiness, everything. So how do we attain that? This is where trust comes into picture. Trust is a foundational element to go up to the stage of developing love. And without this, if we don't go to that love, there is no question of a strong relationship. So that's why trust and love are very much essential to develop this relationship with the Lord. The Krishna consciousness process also depends upon these two things, trust and love. Right? As per Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya, again, there is an entire hierarchy which defines how one can progress from the level of having a very initial faith to the level of having supreme love for the Lord. It is possible. How do we do that? Step by step, very systematically. It says, Adav Shraddha, Tata Sadhu Sangha, Tata Bhajanat Kriya, Tata Narta Nivritti Sya, Tato Nishtha Ruchi Sada, Ata Tatas Tata Bhavos, Tata Prema Bhuchansti, Sadakana Mayam Premna, Pradhur Bhave Bhavattama. This is the hierarchy. This is what the verse is saying. The first step is initial faith. the faith that, this process looks very interesting. Let me go and see what it is. That is called initial faith, adho shraddha. That initial faith is a must to actually begin anything, right? Not just the process, not just practicing bhakti or bhakti yoga or devotional service. If you want to even you know study something in a university, you need to have initial faith that this university is competent enough. The professor who is going to teach me knows what he's talking about. He's going to teach me something important. So that initial faith, without that initial faith, there is no question of learning anything or progressing in any of the activities that we do. So in our daily life, we have some faith. Even scientific experiments, they start with a hypothesis. Yes, we think it will, if we do in this way, if we perform such experiments, we will reach this conclusion. And then, that is the initial faith that they have. Without that faith, no process is complete. Nothing can be done. So that's why even Krishna consciousness, this initial faith is very important. Initial faith that, okay, let me go and see what this Krishna consciousness movement is. What does it talk about? How does it work? Let me see the lives of other people who are practicing this. Slowly we go there and understand what that initial faith is. And a neophyte devotee, a new devotee who comes into the temple, walking into the temple with this initial faith, has a very fragile faith. That's why it's so important for people who are already practicing this Krishna consciousness movement to be really sensitive to people who are coming for the first time, or in general, to be more sensitive to people, because the initial faith is very, very fragile. It's in a budding stage. It's easy to kill such a faith if with little inattentiveness and little. It has no strong foundation of knowledge, right? Typically, in crisis situations, this happens. This happens as the kind of faith is destroyed. And there are ample opportunities in the world today, especially with the social media network and other platforms of communication available now. All kinds of things are there on Google, on Facebook. People who have this very little budding faith that can be very easily destroyed. There was a story that Prabhupada used to say a lot. During the Second World War time, some of the ladies in Germany, they prayed to God that, oh God, please save our husbands and our brothers who are in the war. Please bring them back. And of course, the enemy party ladies were also praying like that. Our family members were also praying like that. And many of them didn't return because the war is war. People get killed in that war. So then suddenly they lost faith. They lost faith in God. They said there is no such thing as God. If He was there, He would have listened to my prayers. Right? So without the foundation, without the understanding, without knowledge, this faith is very, very fragile. It gets crushed very easily. So it requires a lot of watering, as we say, to develop this. And so all the other steps that you see on the top, saintly association, devotional service, all these are components of confirming the faith. And that's where one can reach to this stage of nishtha, or firm faith, determination, where the faith is not wavering at this point of time. Right? And this then becomes a launch pad to attain pure love of the Lord, of our goal. Right? The process of getting from neophyte devotee to advanced devotee is called sadhana, and it requires a lot of practice, a lot of inclination, and with the help of different devotees. Right? Again, the faith that we are talking about is not a blind faith. Usually, when we talk about faith, people who are atheistic inclinations, they just talk or start blaming. You religious people, you always talk about faith. There's nothing scientific about your process. But actually, if we say that, then all the religious experiments, all the scientific experiments are also just faith. Actually, they just has no scientific basis. Because as I said, initial faith is required for anything. And this experiment, or these ladders which are given in the scriptures, is basically an experiment which has to be performed with ourselves. Once we apply ourselves to this process, we will understand it really works. Yeah? And the faith comes with knowledge, with understanding, with realization. With this initial faith, we start our associating with devotees and serving devotees. What happens is our knowledge increases, our realization increases. That realization knowledge gives rise to more firm faith, and it's a cycle, keeps building up. You know, a more firm faith then increases our knowledge and realization further, which gives us rise to a more firm faith. So that is the level that one has to reach, the firm faith, the advanced devotee. The second stage, as you see, the saintly association. This is a very important step. Now, this comes into the practical application of how do we develop this, how do we traverse this path from a neophyte stage to a firm or advanced stage of faith, right? Remaining in association is a very integral part of this process. Without having association of like-minded devotees, it is very, very, very difficult to maintain our faith, right? So association shapes our faith, basically. The cultural aspect of Krishna consciousness, our friends and families, or our community that we live in, if they are Krishna conscious, our Krishna consciousness will also progress very nicely. But if we are if we don't keep ourselves in this association, then our faith will certainly dwindle at some time in some time in the future. So that's why keeping like-minded association, devotee association, develops our faith and trust in the process of Krishna consciousness. Very, very important. This association shapes anyway, because material world by nature is degrading. Everything degrades in the material world, right? Like if you keep a house empty for a long time, it will start deteriorating. You'll see cobwebs all around, dust flowing around, starts deteriorating. Things breaking apart. So the nature of material world is deteriorating. Similarly, if our faith is not strengthened by association, if we don't regularly make it a point to associate with like-minded devotees, attend these these calls, like to have a discussion about these topics, here to a kirtan, do about all these different aspects of devotion. So if we don't do all these things, our faith will slowly dwindle down, because by nature things kind of deteriorate, and our faith will one day be very weak again. So it's very, very important to keep faith association. Right? Understanding, yeah. Trust in a relationship is built on each other's understanding about between two people. Without good understanding of each other's psychophysical nature, or how a person behaves, what he does, what does not, it is very difficult to build trust, right? Because if somebody else comes and speaks something about the person, if we don't understand that person properly, we will misunderstand, and it may definitely break our trust, break our relationships. So same thing applies to our relationship with Krishna. Right? What is the way for us to understand Krishna? He is not present physically here. So scriptures give us that way. Srimad Bhagavatam talks about 9 processes of devotional service that can be used in order to develop our relationship with Krishna, to understand Krishna. When we apply these, which is the first of them is Shravanam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Shravanam means hearing. The first step in developing our relationship or understanding Krishna thoroughly is to hear about him, right? To hear about him. So from Bhagavatam we hear, the pastime of Rukmini Devi, how Rukmini Devi kind of got attracted to Krishna. She never saw Krishna, but only by hearing about Krishna from other people, she got attracted to Krishna. And then she desired to be taken away by Krishna in marriage. Right? Same thing happened with the wives of Brahmanas in Vrindavan. They never saw Krishna, but when they heard about Krishna from other people, and they got attracted to Krishna. So hearing is the first step of Shravanam. And once you hear, you want to speak. That's called Kirtanam. Kirtanam means glorifying the Lord, either through kirtans or talking about him, reading his scriptures, reading about him in scriptures. These are different processes. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Sparam, remembering Krishna, Dasyam, Archanam, Vandanam, serving the Lord, performing Aarti, all these different steps. There are 9 processes, very detailed, very systematically explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Any one of these processes, if we do it perfectly, we will be able to get some understanding about the Supreme Lord, as much as Krishna bestows the understanding upon us. It is up to him ultimately to give us the understanding of us. But that relationship can be built through this process, from our side. Okay, and this is confirmed by him. Krishna says that nobody can understand him through tapasya or through penance, or these are all mechanical ways, or through yoga or anything. Yeah, nobody can understand through jnana or knowledge. Simple philosophy cannot give you an understanding of a person. Even Krishna, not just Krishna, any other person also. If you want to understand how a person is, you analyze that person. Okay, he's like this, he's walking like this, doing like this. But unless until you understand or you know him, or you try to know him, you cannot understand his mood, what he thinks, how he thinks, what he does, what is his heart. All these things require a relationship, a loving relationship. And that is what Krishna is telling Arjuna. And only by undivided devotional service can I be understood. Without devotional service, nobody can. Even from Mahabharata, we know that during the time of Mahabharata, Krishna himself was present in this world. However, very few people actually understood him to be God, to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Those who were really knowing, who had the knowledge, and who had this loving heart to reciprocate with him in his, like the 5 Pandavas, they knew Krishna was God, and they were unwed devotees of the Lord. But other people like Duryodhan, Shakuni, they were not able to figure out. They thought, yeah, he's a big personality, very strong personality, historical personality, but they could not figure out that he is actually God, because it is not possible to understand Krishna except from devotional service. This is the only way, devotional service. Anything else that we do should be directed towards attaining this devotional service of the Lord, because that is the way of understanding Krishna. So the scriptures talk about these 9 processes of devotional service to attain or to understand Krishna. Now this is one thing. This is our effort to understand him. Now how should Krishna have faith in us? How will he have faith in or trust in us? That comes through our behavior, right? So only if we are honest, if we are sincere, and we have integrity in our actions, then can Krishna trust us. What does this mean is, okay, we hear some lecture, we say, yeah, Krishna consciousness is very good. I will definitely attain. I will do. I'll do it. But the next day, I just totally go back to my old ways. I'm not sincere enough. I don't practice the process very sincerely. I don't have integrity to accept that I cannot do this, or I need help. Many things happen like that. You cannot accept honestly that I need help to process in this and to progress in this path. So unless we develop this sincerity, this honesty, integrity, Krishna will not be able to trust our actions, our motives. We may say things, but Krishna is looking in the heart. It is said that Krishna does not look at what you give; he looks at what you are holding back. Right? He wants you to completely surrender and understand that, have complete faith in him, that he will take control, he will take help, he will take care of us. Okay, so this is understanding each other. Without understanding each other, it's difficult to develop trust, faith. And how do we strengthen? So strengthening our faith. So there are certain activities, practical activities, that will help us in our journey to have this solid faith in the process of Krishna consciousness. Because we will see certain things, certain activities that we perform, it will show us, it will make us realize that what the scriptures are telling is not false. Right? And that is how we develop our faith. what the scriptures are telling is not false because I'm realizing them in my real life, right? So, so how do we, as I said, everything in the world kind of gets deteriorated. So if the trust can also be broken very easily, and if this is once broken, it is very difficult to revive it. It's like a knot, right? When you break a thread, you bit a knot, the knot is still there. Though it is joined, but there is a knot, which kind of is like a lot of doubts in there. When a faith is broken, there's a lot of doubts in there. So how do we strengthen our faith that it doesn't happen? We are not susceptible to this kind of attacks on our faith, which will basically weaken our faith. So 3S protects us from unwanted desires and helps us clean our heart. One is, as I said, Shravanam, regularly hearing about the Supreme Personality of God. It says it cleans our heart. It cleans our heart of all the anarthas, that is lust, greed, anger, pride. It cleans those dirty things from our hearts, and it develops faith in the Lord. The initial faith grows with hearing. So this is also kind of an association, hearing, Shravanam, from right authoritative sources. Yeah, hearing from anybody will not help. So that may also destroy our faith. We need to make sure that the person who is talking is coming in a line of disciplic succession. He is bona fide to speak on the subject of the Lord, because it has to be empowered by the Lord, right, to the disciplic succession. Sadhana. Sadhana is regular practice. You hear, but if you don't practice what you're hearing, you will not realize anything. That is a fact, right? Anything that is heard needs to be practiced in order to realize. So regular practice is very, very essential. As you see in the picture, get together, try to chant together, read together, discuss these topics together. That is sadhana. That will develop our faith. Very, very important. And seva, practical service. Yes, we heard, we are doing our sadhana, but we are not applying that in our real lives. No realization will come. So these three things will give us the realization of what we are reading, what we are hearing is real. Will actually help us to develop our faith. And then when with this realization, when we again read or hear, and our faith increases, it builds up, it strengthens our faith. So very important. Shravanam, sadhana, regular practice, and seva. It's very important to keep some time aside every day for these three activities. Yeah. And seva could be anything. You just don't have to be in a temple to do seva. You can do seva at home. If we have a temple or deities at home, we do some service to the deities. We cook for the deities, we clean the utensils for the deities, do some household work. Yeah, it's a temple. We do that kind of seva also. So it can be very simple. It need not be very, very complex. And the last item of this trust, or last principle, is total surrender. Right? So after we do all these things and we strengthen our faith, we realize we come to the point of having this firm faith. Complete trust in the Lord is total surrender. So complete trust that Lord will protect me no matter what. Yeah. So this is what surrender means. So surrender means faith that Krishna will protect me. Now, this is the definition that Chaitanya Charitamrita gives. Shraddha Shabdhe Vishwasatahe Shuddha Nishchay Krishna Bhakti Kaila Sarva Karma Krita. This is a faith, a sublime understanding, sublime confidence that if I perform Krishna consciousness, if I perform devotional service to the Supreme Lord, then everything will be taken care of nicely. That doesn't mean that we become ideal. It doesn't mean that. We have to work, no doubt. But the firm faith that even if the reversals are coming, I know Krishna is there. He is going to take care of me. That is the kind of faith that a devotee has. And that is the kind of faith that Arjuna had. That is the kind of faith all the Pandavas had. If you see the life story of Pandavas, it's amazing. I'm currently reading Mahabharata, and I see so many realizations of how much faith, how much total surrender did the Pandavas have. Right? If you see their life from the very childhood, they lost their father in a very early age. They were raised by their mother in the jungle with the rishis, and then the rishis told them to go back to Hastinapur. They didn't want to go because they were happy, in a peaceful life, in a mode of goodness life, where they had no tensions. But they were kshatriyas by nature, and their duty was to rule. And because they were religious, or they were dharmic people, they were supposed to rule. So they were instructed to go back to Hastinapur. As soon as they entered Hastinapur, they were not treated well. First of all, there was a rumor spread by Dhritarashtra and party that these five people are not from Kuru dynasty. They are not legitimate son of Pandavas because they were born from some devatas, right, as the story goes. But then there was a proclamation done from the heavens that no, these are legitimate sons of Pandavas and they should be accepted in the family, and that's why they were obliged to accept them. But there was a lot of hostility towards them. These five kids, they were like what they call underdogs. They were like not treated well. They were always separated because Duryodhan, he never wanted any competition. He wanted to rule the kingdom himself, and so did Dhritarashtra. So they were always kept not welcomed very heartily, and that was very difficult for them. As they grew up, they had to face so many challenges. The Kauravas tried to burn them alive in Varnavrat. Then they had to escape from there. Then they lost all their kingdom. They were given a place called Khandapras, which had nothing there. They were cheated basically. Still, they accepted that. They made a very beautiful heaven out of that. Yet they were also cheated of that because they were cheated in a gambling match. They were insulted. They were sent to 13 years of exile. So many difficulties. Yet, at not even a single moment, they lost faith in Krishna. If you see their life, it is complete. It's full of difficulties and reversals. At the end, they had to fight a war which was not at all pleasant. They didn't want to fight it. It is not that it's not like a movie, right? It's not a happy ending. Even though Pandavas won, they had to suffer so much of loss. It is said in the Mahabharata that Kauravas or Dhritarashtra lost all his sons, and he was sad, was miserable. But Pandavas, Yudhishthir Maharaj was equally miserable even after winning the war, because he felt himself to be responsible for so many deaths, and also he lost all his sons. It was not a very pleasant thing to rule the world after so much of destruction. Yet they never lost their faith in Krishna, in their Lord. And not even a single moment they thought that our lives are worthless, or we cannot do this. Why this is happening to me? Nothing like that. They had complete faith in the Lord. They kept going. Same thing with Vasudeva and Devaki. Kamsa was kind of killing their kids one after another. Yet they kept having kids because they knew that Krishna has proclaimed he is going to come as the eighth son. We have full faith he will come. Such a traumatic incident, if a mother is seeing their child getting killed in front of them, even one child, the person is in trauma for the entire life. Just think about, they've been killed like 6 times in front of their eyes. Not very, very good. It's a traumatic experience, yet because of their faith and love for the Lord, they kept going. So this is how we need to develop our faith to this level of surrender, which will then make us blissful. So in summary, we just talked about how trust is foundational to attain the pure love of the Lord. And why we want to attain this pure love of the Lord is because that is our eternal relationship with the Lord Krishna, which will give us happiness as a spirit soul. So trust is a foundational element for that. That everything begins with this initial faith, Adhav Shraddha, and then how all the practices in Krishna consciousness builds our strong faith in the process, which will become a launch pad for loving Krishna. One of the elements of strengthening our faith is remaining in devotee association. It's very essential to have correct faith. And understanding Krishna, the devotional service, will build our trust in a relationship, in the relationship. So there are 9 processes of devotional service we talked about, uh, which can be any one process can build our trust in the Supreme Lord. Strengthening our faith through the 3 S's: Shravanam, Sadhana, and service, will protect and strengthen. It will guide us. It will guard our faith and help us progress in this path. And that will basically ultimately give us experience of total surrender. We gave the example of Pandavas, of how firm faith they had in the Lord, and that will lead us to a pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness. So yeah, so that's all I had. Thank you so much. I think, I don't know, Pandavas Prabhu, if you have any questions, we have 5 minutes, I believe.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much, Prabhu. We can open for question and answers. If anybody on Zoom call, if you guys want to comment or question to Prabhu, please. Okay, Prabhu, if you are speaking, you're on mute. Okay, let me check on YouTube. Anybody have any questions, Prabhu? I don't see, but Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes,
If you permit
sure,
me.
Prabhu.
Prabhu, I was struggling to distinguish the meanings of between the trust and faith. Can you
Mm-hmm.
please elaborate more on the what's the main categorical difference between trust and faith? That will be helpful, Prabhu.
Okay. Yeah. So technically speaking, um, as I said, the definition says that they're interchangeable. Trust is the confidence or faith in something that is sublime. Yeah. But actually speaking, faith is something which is from the heart. It comes. A trust is developed when we have certain faith that grows into a trust. It is a more solid, firm faith. So, for example, if I have faith in something that you're doing, in my initial faith, right now, I go into a temple, I see some activities going on. Okay, yeah, I have some faith that there is God and they are doing something there. But as I start going and associating more and more with devotees, right, that kind of gets more firmed up because I realize certain things. So trust is, in my opinion, I'm not, I don't know exactly the stark difference about it, but from my understanding, trust is a realized faith. When you realize certain process that you do, and when you have strong faith that yes, I trust this process. I will not. I know that this works. You know, so that level will basically get you to that trust level. That's like we have this determination, right? Nishtha, as they say. So that is what trust will basically give us a founding, platform to move on. A very strong faith, basically. I don't know if you have anything which you want to comment on.
No, Prabhu. I mean, thank you for clarifying that subtle difference. I was thinking that faith is used in terms of religious things. Trust is more like material. So that's what I had, but you clarified that it is uh, they are
Yeah, I
one
mean,
increases by the other.
well, faith is there. It's not really religious. I mean, yeah. I mean, the word itself is kind of used usually in a religious context. That's why people have this understand the faith is religious. It's not really that. as I said, any process needs some initial faith. You are going to engage in something, you need to have some initial faith, and trust. You have trust in Krishna, right? Oh, he's going to help us in whatever crisis we are in. That is the real trust. I trust you, yeah, as we say. Trust
Yes,
is
yes,
very strong faith. Yeah.
yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you
Very
so much.
nice.
So
It was nice to hear from you. Mataji's Prabhu, anybody wants to ask a question to Prabhu? We still have a few more minutes. Sometimes we have lag, Prabhu, so please bear with us.
no problem. No problem.
Okay, Prabhu, we don't have any comments or questions from devotees here. Also, I don't see any comments. So I think we can close, Prabhu. Prabhu, thank you so much for
Thank
giving
you so
your
much.
association this week. Thus, really appreciate your time, your precious time. I know it is last minute request, but you really took it your heart and taking this class. This really helpful, Prabhu. Prabhu, thank you so much, and we
Thank you so
heart
much.
put congratulate and grateful to you from our Nepali congregation, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna.